Hello, and welcome back to Murder of Crows, Chapter 5. Alan Mortimer Wyatt was built like a man who, in his youth, had been incredibly powerful. I could see the ghosts of muscles in his broad shoulders and the memory of a once rugged chin in his ancient face. He wasn't dressed like he was about to attend a party being thrown in his own house at all. Instead, wearing a button-down pajama and the plush gray robe that I'd glimpsed from downstairs. Mr. Wyatt mentioned for us to join him in his hidden office and sat heavily in the leather chair behind his desk after shaking our hands. Your speech was beautifully delivered, Mr. Wyatt continued. I can't thank you enough for helping us remove the jackal from within our midst. We are a gaggle of oddities, to be sure, but there is a line between enthusiasm and method acting, if you know what I mean. Thank you for having us, I replied graciously. Your home and library are both incredible. Yes, thank you, Wynne echoed. Mr. Wyatt glowed with pleasure, but waved his big hand in dismissal. Oh, you flatterer, it's not all my work. The best things are a group effort. He was different from what I'd expected based on his letter and what I knew about the murder of Crows. I built him up in my head as some mysterious benefactor, but mostly just felt like someone's grandpa. But I still got the sense that he and his club were hiding something. That he had invited me here tonight for more than just a public speaking engagement. Why else would he invite us up here in Mr. Green's explicit instructions to remain on the first floor? I decided to test the waters on my theory. So, why didn't you come down here and join the group, if you don't mind me asking? I don't get down all these stairs that much these days, he explained quietly. When you're my age, you choose a room you like best and you stay in it. He chuckled softly and held up a pair of delicate opera glasses. Those are so cool, Wynne said. If you think those are cool, I have something else that might interest you both, Mr. Wyatt said, arranging his mobility aids and shooing us towards the door. It wouldn't do us to leave a party without souvenirs. We followed him out into the library once we were back in the shelf-lined room. Mr. Wyatt looked at us both seriously. I must admit, I did have a bit of an ulterior motive asking you here tonight, Tig. I couldn't stop a smile from crawling across my face. I know it's a bit bold of me to come to you for anything after you've already provided such an exemplary service to our community, he continued, leaning heavily on his walker. However, it is precisely because you have proven yourself in this way that I believe you would be an incredible asset to the task I must ask of you. He pulled a book from one of the shelves, then walked slowly over to the large table. Now, I'm sure Mr. Green asked if you would like to join the murder of Crows, and it's my best guess that you said no, he asked. Yeah, I mean, no offense, I started, but Mr. Wyatt pulled up a gentle hand. None taken. The old bat had to try. You don't seem like the club-joining type to me. You've got independence in your eyes. To my surprise, Wynne piped up. She works with me, Max, and sometimes Ella, she said to Mr. Wyatt, then turned to me as if for confirmation. Mr. Wyatt nodded and reached up to pluck a book off the shelf behind the desk. Smaller teams get more done, I agree. He wiped the book and he was holding with a small cloth, and then handed it to me. Thank you, I said politely, unclear what yet another old book had to do with the mysterious task he had for me. Would it kill these old guys to just come out with it already? Go ahead, open it, he urged gently. The title of the book was The Mystery and History of Hollow Falls. The cover of the book was brown and worn, but its pages were edged with gold. When I peeled back the first few sheets, I was surprised to find that the book had been hollowed out. Inside was a beautiful antique spyglass. I lifted it up to the light, then brought one end to my eye. This is too much, Mr. Wyatt, I said haltingly. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very cool, but you don't have to give me a gift for solving the lit killer case. It was sort of my life's mission, after all. I suddenly felt awkward. I didn't mean to get so real with this old dude I just met. Mr. Wyatt crossed his arms and leaned back against the table. My dear, you saved our lives. This token is simply the least I can do, he said, soft and honest. When you came to visit us for the first time and managed to unravel our own dangerous mystery, I knew I had to arrange for you to come down and receive this in person as a symbol of my gratitude. Mr. Wyatt smiled, but didn't reach his eyes. Instead, he seemed a bit sad. This, he continued, is a gift, but it's also an opportunity. A spyglass is a tool that helps to reveal what cannot be seen with the eyes alone. I'm sure when the time is right, you will be able to find it. You will find it absolutely invaluable. His words were laced with meaning I didn't quite understand. Can I see? Wynne asked. I handed the spyglass to her. "Keep it close and protect it," Mr. Wyatt said urgently. "This is a gift for you and your band of sleuths, and no one else. Keep it from getting into the wrong hands. I didn't put it in a hollowed-out book for nothing." Wynne handed the spyglass back, and I tucked it gently inside its literally safe house. Wynne looked back at the book's cover closely. "Mr. Wyatt," she said slowly, "we're working on a story for the paper about Founders Day, and we heard that the murder of crows has a history with the event." She paused. "And with something called the Hunt." Mr. Wyatt looked startled. He leaned heavily against the table. "Well, you young people are even more intuitive than I gave you credit for. The Hunt is precisely why I asked you to come here today." Wynne and I both gasped, and Wynne took a large step backward. "Yes, the murder of crows was integral to the Founders Day celebration you all know so well. Back in the 1970s, we worked together with the mayor to shut the Hunt down. It was a bloodbath." Oh my god, I fumbled out my recorder in my pocket and turned it on. "House rules are broken." "Can you talk to us about it?" "That's why you're here, isn't it?" Mr. Wyatt sighed. I seemed like, by confiding in us, he was crossing his own personal Rubicon. I was dying to know why this old-timey scavenger hunt had people so revved up. After a pause that felt like eons, Mr. Wyatt continued. "Transforming the Hunt into a holiday wasn't a particularly hard decision, although it didn't go over well with everyone. Things had gotten very out of hand at that point, and the mayor at the time practically jumped out our idea for Founders Day. It only took a generation for most people in town to forget about the Hunt, or grow too old to keep looking," he said, gazing off into the distance. "Before it came to that, I was a young hotshot with something to prove, and Mr. Green was my right-hand man. We were so terribly deep into the Hunt that neither of us even went to university after everything that had been settled. Everyone was invested in finding the Founders Day body and the treasure that was rumored to come with it. There was an urbane of criminal activity. Hooligans were dumping up graves and destroying public property, and people were getting hurt and killed. When the scent of incredible fortune is waved at the noses of bloodhounds, they do what they are bred to do. The day the Hunt became more about avoiding death than the thrill of the search, the exchange was no longer worth it. One day, I woke up and I had just had enough. Sophia will tell you." "Sophia? Like my abuela Sophia?" I questioned. Mr. Wyatt looked surprised. "Of course. Doesn't she know you're here?" "No," I admitted begrudgingly. "I took the bus. She'll be sorry she missed you. If I had known you two knew each other, I would have asked her to tag along." Mr. Wyatt smiled sadly. "I haven't seen Sophia in quite some time. Since, well, it doesn't matter, does it? The past is the past. But one story at a time," Mr. Wyatt interrupted. He took his head as if to clear his thoughts before starting again. "Despite the Founders Day tradition, there are still factions of people who have kept the Hunt alive all these years, in whispers and dark corners. Many of them are members of this very club. Not all of them are friends, and all of them have their own motives, as I once did. I've spent my life in search of the Founder's body and its treasure. The Hunt is a part of my legacy. I couldn't bear to see it fall into the hands of people who don't understand its worth." I noticed that he was leaning heavily on the table, so I pushed a nearby chair behind him and settled him into it gratefully. "Thank you, dear." He took a deep breath. "This is where you and your friends come in, Tig Torres. I'm sure the Hunt was intended for good purposes, but this whole situation has brought so much strife and pain to the community. The holiday is just a band-aid on a broken arm. I'm an old man, and I would like to see this whole matter put to rest before I'm gone. I'd like you to help me find the Founder's body and have the treasure, whatever it may be, either distributed among the townspeople or preserved in the library or museum." Mr. Wyatt sounded worried, but his words filled me with a thrill. A real treasure hunt with a dark history. Mystery players with secret motives, and a generation of elders with adventurous pasts to hide. Wynne caught my eye over Mr. Wyatt's shoulder and raised her eyebrows excitedly. "So, where do we start?" I asked. "First, Mr. Wyatt began, but before he could finish, the door to the library burst open with a crash. That is the end of Chapter 6, Murder of Crows. Before we end the video, I'd like to apologize for missing a video last week. I know some of you guys noticed that. But other than that, I will see you next week with a new video. Adios.